My name's Maya Cheek. I am a trauma therapist in the Bay Area. My spiritual journey has kind of been my history, surviving this life and reaching for something greater than myself
Oh, that's great.
through mostly Buddhism and a lot of different meditation practices. I think that's all for now.
All right. David?
My name is David. I'm a retired old man. I used to be a doctor. It was a late comer to Nevada, probably about 7, 8 years ago. And I like coming to Jim's classes.
And he also is a healer and a very good one.
My name is Liam. In terms of my spiritual journey, I'd say I was born and raised Catholic, and by the time I was in high school, I was coming out as gay and wanted nothing to do with Catholicism and rebelled against it pretty hard. And started meditating when I was a senior in high school to deal with a lot of the anxiety that I was having. And I ended up studying Buddhism academically for 6 years in college. And I did my undergrad, my minor was Buddhist studies, and I did a master's in religious studies focused on Buddhism. And after about 8 years in Dharma communities, I kind of felt a yearning to come back to my home tradition. And I started reading certain Christian and Catholic mystics, namely Thomas Merton was very influential on me. And in my like mid late 20s, I came back to Catholicism kind of through the route of Christian mysticism.
My name is Daryl. Much like Liam, actually, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness and a very strict Christian background. Also rebelled against it. About at the age of 16, 17, I left it and I cursed off God and religion and figured I'd never have anything to do with either one of them for the rest of my life. As I started getting close to my 40s, I felt a calling, and it really didn't take long. And right away, I appeared Jim, and I met him, and started going down the path of knowledge. And I've been studying off and on with Jim for several years. And here I am today, trying to deepen my knowledge and further know the self.
I'm Preeti. I was raised in Hindu tradition and kind of similarly hasn't had like a big place in my life for many years, probably since like college. And I've started like getting back into the practice of meditation largely to deal with a lot of anxiety. And also have been like feeling a deeper sense of like spiritual grounding and more kind of preparedness for kind of revisiting things that grounded me in the past.
I forget how you found me.
I used to come to some of the readings. It was ages ago. It's like 10, 12 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's been a while.
My name is Mali. I've been coming to Jim's classes for about close to 2 years now. My journey to spirit, I'm from India. And I went to a school that was, pretty much all run by, it was built by the British. It was a Western curriculum. So it's pretty much brought up an atheist. And so I didn't have, I knew all the spiritual, the religious aspects of Hinduism from my parents and my grandparents and things like that. But I didn't know, I didn't have any personal connection to it. So then I moved to the US. I went to the Philippines for work and I got sick there and I got, severe insomnia from it, and then a cascade of health issues followed. And that's what was the beginning of my spiritual journey. Fast forward to about 2 years ago, I, explored multiple modalities of like breath work and meditation and, chanting and all sorts of things. Then I went to Vipassana retreat. That was a transformative experience, and it left me with, believe it or not, more anxiety than I started off. But it kind of went to my core and unearthed things that I needed to process, right? And that's when I found Jim. And this will be the second time I'm going through this text. The first time I took one-on-one classes with Jim, and this text was my guiding light through my post Vipassana journey. And
I'd forgotten that. That's right. And you actually came through Puneet and Sound, right?
yes, and Deepa, and I met you once before then, but I wasn't like looking for a guru and a teacher. But it was after that when I was like, the simplicity of this text and what this text left me with was just so profound and so simple that's when it really opened my eyes to the teachings. And since then, we've done, I think, 1 or 2 or 3 books, maybe. So yeah, and this is it's always a great opportunity for me to go back to the basics and like really dive into the basics, and that's why I'm here.
Great. And we have Jory online and Ganesh online. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Sure. Hi, I'm Ganesh. Um, I'll be chanting tonight. I've been coming to Jim's classes for, I don't know, 13, 14 years, I suppose. Yeah.
He's a slow learner. And a wonderful, wonderful yogi. And I think we have Jory, is that right?
Yeah, we have Jory, we have Mark, and we have Soumya, I think. Or
Soumya, introduce yourself, Soumya. She may be muted.
yeah, she's not coming off mute.
And Mark, you can introduce yourself.
My name is Mark, and I met Jim many years ago, 1991, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we lost contact for a long time. And I moved away from San Francisco. And when the epidemic, COVID, came around, and Jim started doing Zoom, I decided to check in and found him. And so I've been doing classes since that. It's been a wonderful journey for me.
And Mark is one of the few people who works with me who met Swamiji. He had done a few camps with Swami Chinmayananda, my guru.
Yeah, I had that wonderful experience.
Yeah. So we have some Buddhists tonight. So I want to do a little bit of talking about language nomenclature. So, and you, especially Liam, who has a strong academic background in it, please speak up if I misspeak. But many Buddhists speak of the doctrine of anatman. There is no self. But they don't, as a rule, deny that there's a ground of being. So in your studies, is that, hang on, let me see if that's one of our. Let me see if she's going to. Okay, I'll deal with that later. But they have this idea that there's no substratum, there's no ground of being. And there are schools of Buddhists, which my tradition calls Shunyavadins, scholiasts of the void, who posit that ultimate reality is just nothing. And as we move through this text, we'll look at how that's actually an unverifiable position. Because if ultimate reality is nothing and awareness itself disappears, then who is it to cognize that there's nothing? So you can't You can't be aware of something if there's no awareness. So set that kind of teaching on the shelf for now, if that's where your history has been. And part of, in my opinion, why the Buddha used that language is in the Hindu scriptures, the word for self, which is Atman, is not specifically denotated or connotated. It changes according to context. Sometimes it means the body. Sometimes it means the individuality. And for the highest texts, it means this ultimate reality, which is not personal. It's not a person. It's something deeper than that. So when we talk about knowledge of the self, this is not talking about psychological examination of my ego or my personality. Any thoughts or questions on this before I move on? Is this clear for you?
Yeah, I don't identify as a Buddhist, but I follow
Okay.
practices.
All right. All right. So just as kind of a framework for tonight, the entire teaching can be summed up with four great statements that we find in the Vedas, in the Upanishads, which are the concluding portion of the Vedas. And they sum up what we're going to be dealing with in this class. They're called the Mahavakyas. You don't need to know the Sanskrit. But the first one is Prajnanam Brahma, which says Brahman, ultimate reality, is consciousness. So many of us have been raised where we think of God as a personality, be it Jesus or Krishna or Shiva or anything like that. But what the Upanishads say is ultimate reality is consciousness, it's awareness. And then the second one says, I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. And the student says, oh, Guruji, you're the self, I'm a worm. Where is this self located? What do we mean by it? Self is not something that's moving around in above us. You know, what do you think of the self? No, what do you think about, as if the self were an idea, something other. So the third Mahavakya is Tattvamasi. Daryl was speaking of that before class, which means you are that. Who is it who sees the phone?
I am.
You see the phone?
I see the phone.
Everybody clear on that? You see the phone? That's yourself. My problem is not that I need to get a new self or contact a self or merge with some higher self. My basic problem is I've superimposed on an eternal, constant, direct experience all sorts of erroneous notions. And these notions are very powerful. They're very powerful. And then the fourth Mahavakya, after we've done long meditation and practice these principles, these techniques, at the moment of awakening, the student says, not that I know Brahman, I know God, I know ultimate reality. Aham Brahmasmi, I am Brahman. So that's kind of the frame that we're going to be working on tonight. Now, we normally start classes with some chants. So I like to start with 3 verses from Guru Stotram, which is the hymn to the Guru. I do this out of reverence to my teacher. Some of you know it, and as we move through the class, we'll learn it. Tonight, we're not going to focus on that one. Om. 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 Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trailokyam Sacharacharam. Tat padam darshitam yena tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. Twameva mata cha pita Twameva bandhuscha sakha Twameva vidya dravinam Twameva sarvam mama deva deva Twameva sarvam mama deva deva. Well, it's quarter of, and Paolo and Anthony are not here. So let's meditate. Now, is there anyone here who's never meditated before? Okay. So we will have 20 minutes of meditation before we get into the text. Om Namah Shivaya. Let's come back from meditation by chanting Om 3 times. Om. 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 How did you all do with meditation? Does anyone have questions about sitting that they want to address first? Okay, so let's learn the first of the Upanishad mantra chants, the Om Sahana Bhavatu. I'll chant a phrase and then you repeat it after me. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Together. Om Sahana Bhavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Ma vidvishavahai. Ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Together. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And that's a start, and you could see the translation. This is one of the Vedic invocations that are study, be fruitful together. So let's get into our text. And Ganesh, we're running a little late, so we'll skip the poem at the beginning, the Pratas Smarami will do that next week. So if you'd be so kind to start us with the first shloka. Shloka means a verse, by the way, in Sanskrit. So he's going to chant them so you get an understanding of what the poetry. Shankara, our poet, is kind of like a combination between St. Thomas Aquinas and Shakespeare. I mean this. He's a towering philosophical mind and a great yogi. I think I said in some of the stuff I handed out, 788 to 820, we usually date him, but just an incredible poet. So will you help us out, Ganesh?
Hey Jim, before we start, if we got these from you and we pay you, can we mark these up?
Yeah,
Okay.
they're yours.
Jim, what do we send you for this?
Say what?
Do you have how much do the texts cost?
Texts are $5. And if you're short on funds tonight, just take it. All right, Ganesh, will you help us out?
Yeah. Tapo papanam shantanam vitaraginam mumukshunam apekshoyam atmabodho vidhiyate.
In the translation?
I'm composing this Atmabodha, the treatise on the self-knowledge for those who have purified themselves by austerities, who are peaceful in heart, who are free from cravings, and are desirous of liberation.
Oh, this very first verse indicates for whom this study of this text is applicable. It's not for the dilettantes. Oh, I wonder what this is about. Is this a drop-in class? It's not for people like that. Neither is it really, it's not a capstone text for those people who are already deep in the self. So it's for a specific group of people. And he gave us three things for us to look at to see, okay, is this for me? So would you enumerate those again for us, Ganesh? What's the first one?
Those who have purified themselves by austerities.
Yes. So if you are still at a time in your life where it's about drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and for you, it's all about cash and prizes, more, better, different. This class isn't for you. So we have to some degree, gain some purity of head and heart. Now, what do we mean by that? In another text, Shankara will say, who has a knowledge of the world outside and an understanding of the world inside. What does he mean by that? None of us in this group tonight are kids. I think we have one person who may still be in their 20s, but I think the rest of us have a few miles on us. And one of the things we should have learned by now is that getting what I want is not necessarily the most successful strategy for happiness. Why? Well, the world is always changing, and everything I get is fundamentally temporary. I think the modern Buddhists will use the word impermanence. Not only that, my mind is always changing. What I wanted yesterday doesn't do it for me today. And then with so many things in life, we have the law of diminishing return. First, chocolate tastes wonderful. If I eat the whole box, blah. And I've begun to see that I'm subject to addictive tendencies in life. Or Maya was talking about being a trauma specialist. So many of us walk around with deep, deep wounds. And what we need to do is get an understanding of the world inside. So this is a text for people who, to some degree, have done some interior psychological work. This can be done with a good psychotherapist. It can be done through deep meditation. It can be done with other kinds of healing uh, uh, frameworks. But you need to have an understanding of just the limitations that the world can give and some understanding of your own. The word we use in Sanskrit, I think the Buddhists use the same one, klesha. Do they use this word?
They do.
Klesha. What do they call it? What's the translation? They
Poison.
What?
Like poisons abound.
A defect, a defilement,
Affliction. Right?
or dosha is another word, which is more like a poison, something like that. Both words. But we need to have some understanding of our character traits, both our character defects and our character assets. It is not for the person who's coming in with a completely unexamined life. So, and we've done some work on letting go of our attachments to the world outside that have messed us up. And some work in working through and letting go some of these interior afflictions, these kleshas. And it's work. It's work. It's not easy. Talking with a family member is having a really rough time in his life. And his solution is he wants to take oxycodone and smoke dope. And, I learned over the years, I just listen. I don't make suggestions too much. But it's not a solution in the end. It's not a solution. So this is what we mean by purification. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have a very pure vegetarian diet or that you do various purification rituals according to your religion and stuff like that. Those things, you'll know what you need to do. You'll know what you need to do. Any thoughts on that first idea? The next idea, Ganesh,
I have a question, Jim.
please.
Do you or Shankar think that do most humans have to go through the sex, drugs, and rock and roll period to realize the inherent unsatisfactoriness of
Yes.
of the world?
Absolutely. But we give it up two ways. Those of us who may be familiar with a 12-step paradigm, most of them will say you don't get clean and sober until you hit bottom. When I get sick and tired of being sick and tired, when it hurts so bad, then I'm beaten into reasonableness. So that's the first way. Swamiji used to say, go after the world. And then he would laugh diabolically. And he would say, let it kick you in the teeth. Let it drop you again and again. It's the only way to kill the ego. Now, if you have a somewhat subtle mind, you don't have to suffer at those rock bottom levels.
Do you have to kill the ego?
Pardon me?
Do you have to kill the ego?
In the end, we see that the ego itself is an unreal thing. The problem is my identification with it. When I think I am the ego. Well, it's an excellent question. We'll get into that. But the other way is through insight. You know, if you've got a family member who maybe has a gambling issue or drugs or is totally into making a whole lot of money and that's what drives them, and you see their unhappiness, then you can say, no, I don't want to go down that path. I'm able to let it go through insight. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah.
Very good one. Very good one. All right. What's the next idea, Ganesh?
For those who are peaceful in heart.
Yes. So, what is the key to being peaceful? We developed the word in Sanskrit is santosha. Who can tell me what santosha is?
Happiness.
Pardon me?
Happiness?
Nope. Contentment.
Oh.
When I begin to accept life on life's terms, when I'm able to be solution oriented, when I start to give up my struggle and fighting life, and I have some peace. Doesn't mean that have reached the ultimate yet, but you've begun to see that peace of mind is valuable. So I'm going to give you an assignment. Make peace of mind your most prized possession. No one and nothing in life is important enough for us to lose our peace of mind. And yet, most of us will squander it away on a scowl or an unkind word. Learning how to let things go, to detach. Hari Om.
Excuse me,
Who is it?
Paulo?
Come in, Paulo. We've been waiting for you.
Sorry.
That was a long 15 minutes late. Come sit. Everybody, this is Paulo. Paulo, this is everybody. Can you grab a copy of the text up there? Okay. We're still missing Anthony. There's one more. Are there enough books left?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're going through, parsing through the first verse. So we need to have some peace of mind so that we can focus our attention on the spiritual life. I'm going to say something that may sound a bit outrageous. Self-realization, enlightenment is not difficult. Krishna in Gita says easy to perform, but it's incredibly rare. It's rare not because it's difficult. It's rare because nobody wants it. I want the world. I want cash and prizes. I have texts from people, we're going to come tonight. Oh, I have something else. You know, it happens. It happens. This isn't for everybody. It isn't for everybody. So this first verse identifies for whom the study of this text is efficacious. And I suspect that most of you, if not all of you, are in that category. Any thoughts on the first shloka, first verse? Number 2.
There are still a few more left, Jim.
Oh, I'm sorry, going on.
Who are free from cravings.
Yes. So again, this idea, if we hold on to the notion that getting what I want is going to make me happy, then we've not understood something very important in life. So for some of you, this is repeat. For some of the new people, I'll go through it. What does it feel like to want something you don't have?
Lack.
Hmm?
Lack.
Yeah. Yoga, which is this science, says there's no other suffering. Let's take physical pain and put it on the shelf for now. But that's not why most people jump off the bridge. Yoga says there's no other suffering than wanting something you don't have, or the flip side of it, aversion. I want to get rid of something I don't like, or the totally neurotic form, bhaya. What's bhaya mean?
Fear.
Yes, which is when I've projected my misery into the future. I'm afraid I'm going to lose what I have, or I'm not going to get it down the road. Now, don't believe me. Don't believe the scriptures. Look to your direct experience. Can you find any other kind of suffering? So what yoga says, it's the wanting itself that's painful. That's what hurts. Kama, craving, dvesha, aversion. So what do we do? So what is it in this world that has happiness as its inherent nature? We would call it its swadharma, its swabhava. When we talk about dharma, like it's the essence of something without which it would not be the thing that it is. It's the dharma of fire to burn. It's the dharma of sugar to be sweet. It's the dharma of water to be wet. But if you look, we don't all want the same things. But everybody is happy when I get what I want for a moment. So this is mechanically what happens to the mind. I determine what it is that I think is going to bring me happiness. That condition is called priya. It's dear to me. You don't, again, need to remember the Sanskrit. I'm going to give it to you for those of you who might be interested in it. Then what do? Well, I try to get that object, that person, place, thing, or situation. I earn it, I purchase it, I marry it, I build it, etc. So I want to get proximate to my object of desire. That's called moda. When I'm near to my object of desire. And when desire and object of desire become one, oh yeah, Pramoda, the point of pleasure. The foolish person thinks that's where the juice is. Give me more of that. But what yoga says is what you've done is use the object to momentarily induce a condition where the mind is free from longing. I go buy the pizza, I get the pizza, I eat the pizza. For a moment, I'm satisfied until I want ice cream. You see, Vishayananda, the bliss that I experience through the sense objects. What the yogi begins to see is the whole strategy of thinking in order to be happy, I just need more, better, different, is a failing strategy. And instead, the yogi begins to engage in a way of life that reduces the number of desires entertained. Now, again, one of my favorite metaphors for this is the whole phenomenon of addiction and alcoholism. So when somebody comes into recovery, their mindset is, if you had my problems, you'd drink too. It's my only friend. I need. And then we have a condition which we call in those traditions being a dry drunk. A dry drunk is someone who's put down the alcohol, but the desire to drink and use is still there. Just white knuckling it. And they're miserable people and really hard to be around. You want to say, for God's sake, go have a drink for the rest of us. Because but if a person gets into recovery, if they're doing it in the traditional way, the purpose is to provide them with a spiritual experience. And guess what happens? The desire to drink and use is removed. Wow. And underneath is freedom. So what Shankara is saying here is the yogi has to some degree been able to clean up their act and is no longer driven by the addictive tendency of the mind. People come to me and I will frequently ask them, do you drink heavily or do drugs? I'm not a moralist. And if they do, I said, don't study Vedanta, don't study yoga. There's nothing worse than a heart full of desire and a head full of yoga. You can't enjoy either. Put the scripture down and go party until you don't have to do it anymore. That's what we tell them to do. Until you don't want to do it anymore. Now, let's look at this whole phenomenon. Who here has ever been stuck in traffic and you're going to be late for an appointment? And you grip the wheel and you try to push the traffic with your heart. Have you ever done that? Road rage happening. And then finally you go, there's nothing I can do. You go to the Google Maps and it says you're at your destination in 23 minutes. So you text your appointment, stuck in traffic. I'm going to be 25 minutes late. And then you let go. I'll just wait. Now, you didn't change the traffic, but something changed in our minds. Am I making sense? You let go of the struggling. Let's see. So, what Shankara is inviting us to understand as we enter into this text, you have to have, to some degree, an understanding of the power of letting go of stuff. This is what he means by the freedom from craving, freedom from desire. Doesn't mean you're living as a monk, in the forest, or wearing the orange cloth and having become a renunciate. It's an inside job. Any thoughts or questions about this? For some of you, this may be a new idea. My suspicion is most of you, you're familiar with this. Next idea?
Oh, Jim,
Yes,
Jim,
Soumya.
yes. So I have a question about this, like, partying or getting it out of your system by physically doing it. And maybe I would go along with that if a person is really outrageous. But there seems to be a long period, like a gray zone, and where a person isn't like going crazy, going out of themselves. But what about discrimination at this
Well,
time?
if you start to discriminate, it means to some degree you've intuitively started to practice yoga. You see?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
You may not have a guru yet who's unfolding scripture, but listen very carefully. Real spirituality is profound common sense.
Hmm.
It's not woo woo, and
Yes.
I mean, I love the woo stuff too, but the fruit of it all is profound common sense.
Mhm.
Yeah. Is that useful, Soumya?
Very useful, Jim. Thank you.
Okay. Next idea, Ganesh?
Desirous of liberation.
Yes. So I talked about this earlier. Even though it's not difficult, it's very rare, and it's because nobody wants it. Because the price tag is we have to see through the vanity and the illusions of the world. And for many of us, I don't want to give that stuff up. Who's got a copy of the book handy?
I do.
Look at the cover. What's on the cover?
It's a rope.
Or is it a snake?
Mm.
Which is it?
It's a rope.
So the drawing on the cover is a pictorial representation of one of the stories that Shankar is going to use. So a person's walking along a road in rural India and it's dusk. And he steps on something and he looks down and he thinks it's a snake. And he's terrified. He jumps back and he's filled with fear. And he has a friend coming up behind him and he says, "Don't come any closer. There's a snake here in the road and it's going to bite me. I'm a goner." And the fellow lifts up his lantern and he says, "What have you been drinking? That's a rope." So what we have here is the phenomenon of superimposition, adhyasa in Sanskrit. What's there is the rope. Now, where is the snake? Is it there on the ground?
No.
Where is it?
Mine.
In his mind. Yeah. So if he gets out a baseball bat and starts beating on the rope, is that going to get rid of the snake?
No.
Here's an important one. I've been doing rope yoga for 20 years. The head of my snake has turned into a rope. Is that what happens? No, you investigate. Now, what Shankara is alluding to here, most of us like smooching that snake. There's no snake there, that's a rope. Don't bother me. We keep dancing with the objects of the senses in a way that creates more and more attachment. And along with it comes the obligatory action, anger, fear, and all those sorts of things. And the problem is misapprehension. It's delusion and illusion. So
And is the problem though ever in the phenomenal world? So if it actually is a snake, wouldn't that be a problem that's presented to you in the phenomenal world?
well, that's a very good question. Bad things happen to good people, but one can move through calamitous situations with great equanimity.
Without thinking I'm a goner.
Pardon me?
Without thinking I'm a goner.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about Tibetan Buddha. I know your studies was with a Tibetan Buddhist, but you look at the Dalai Lama's view of communist China. He was once asked, "Why did you fight back?" And he thought for a moment and he says, if we had fought back, if I had fought back, then the war would have gotten inside me. Incredible answer. So in the end, what the Vedanta scriptures thunder is the phenomenal world comes about essentially in no way different than a dream. Yeah. The one doing the dreaming is the difference. You are the god of your dream. You are not dream as an ego dreaming all of this. But it is all consciousness. And it's all going to be okay. One of Ram Dass's last teachings is even dying is completely safe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let me give you a different viewpoint on something. So in the news, we have this shooting of this poor woman in Minneapolis, Renee Good.
Mm-hmm.
She's fine. Being dead doesn't hurt. She's continuing her journey on the other side with whatever tools she has. She's okay. Probably being shot in the head 3 times, she went very quickly. But what about the man who shot her? He may be a psychopath, or more likely, he's just a really angry young man with no tools. What's going to be sitting on his soul for the rest of his life? Knowing what he did. Paradox. But what a yogi sees is there are spiritual laws that are taking place. And it never says to not participate in the world. But we do so in ways that are maybe different than the ordinary mind. For example, there's a group of 20-some Buddhist monks. Anybody know about them? They're walking across the United States. Have you seen that in the news?
Yeah.
And it's drawing an enormous amount of attention to bring peace. and harmony and happiness to people, to remind them of these deep values which resonate in our hearts. That's very interesting protest. All right, let's see if we can get through the first verse. Do we have more in this verse?
That's it, Jim.
Okay. Second verse, please.
Bodho yasadhanebhyo hi sakshanmokshaikas pakasya bhaknibhajnanam vina moksho na siddhyati. Just as the fire is the direct cause for cooking, knowledge is the direct means of liberation. Compared to all other forms of discipline, knowledge of the self is the only direct means of liberation.
Yes. So here Shankara is talking about what is the direct cause of our liberation, our freedom. Now, all our traditions give us various practices. They may say purify your diet. They may say go on pilgrimages. They may say do long meditation retreats. They may say do yoga postures, all sorts of things. But if my problem is the non-apprehension of my essential nature, back to the snake and the rope again. If I don't see the rope, how many jumping jacks do I need to do in order to see the rope?
None.
If I fast for days, will that help me see the rope? In our story, the fellow comes by with a lantern, and what does he tell the first guy to do? Look. This is investigation. Knowledge is the antidote for ignorance. So the problem I have is not what we would call an ontological problem. It's not that I'm a crappy person and I've got to become a better person, or I need to be glued on to God, or I need to be close to God, or I need to dissolve into God, or all these kinds of metaphors. Right now, our essential nature is birthless, changeless, deathless, never touched by the world of name and form. It's like the center of a cyclone. You're okay. It's always okay. But in my mind, I do not know this. In my mind, I have all these wrong ideas about who and what I am. And it can be very powerful. Maya, have you ever worked with people with eating disorders?
Some, not a specialty.
But for example, you take someone who's anorexic. Now, if a person is anorexic, their perception of their body is not accurate. Look, I bent over and there's a little thing. I must be obese, even though I weigh 90 pounds. So part of what one needs to do is help this person see what their body really looks like and what a healthy body really looks like. There are other factors to go into it, but that's much of like what our problem is. I do not know that myself is okay always. And instead, I superimpose the idea that I'm the body, or the body plus the personality. And I'm constantly trying to secure something, which is by nature ephemeral. That's why it's so hard. Because the ego sense is not a solid thing. It's constantly changing. And that makes most of us pretty scared and neurotic. And we have this paranoid self-observation that sits on our shoulder. How am I doing? Am I okay? What do they think of me? Anybody ever inflicted by those thoughts? Yeah. But the whole attention is on what's essentially an illusory being. Sanskrit is so rich. One of the terms for the ego sense is chit chaya. Chit means consciousness, awareness. Chaya means a shadow. It's a shadow self. And just like a shadow can't exist if you shine a light on it, so also when I have this radical reversal of the attentive faculty, and I start this investigation, who am I? What is my essential nature? This phony self starts to fall. Something very real is there. So, to sum up what Shankara is saying in the second verse, actions do not produce liberation because actions do not contradict ignorance, which is my problem. What contradicts ignorance? Knowledge. I'm thinking of the lyrics to a song. Ganesh, you're not allowed to answer. What song am I thinking of? You don't know. Ask me.
What song are you thinking of?
We all live in a yellow submarine. Now you know. How much fasting, how many jumping jacks, how much uh, uh, self-denial did you need to go through in order to get the answer? No, it comes through vichara, vicharena, by means of investigation. This is what we need to do. Who am I? What is my essential nature? And the great technique we're going to work with is what's called drik drishya viveka, discrimination between the seer and the seen. Everybody see the water glass on the table here?
Mhm.
You're not a water glass. You're the one who sees the water glass. Very clear, right? Subject, object. You can go through all the five senses. Anything you can cognize through the senses is the known. There's subject, object. Whatever you're feeling, joy, sorrow, anger, boredom, enthusiasm, happiness, you are not your feelings. You are the knower of your feelings. In your head, do the problem 2 + 2. Visualize a strawberry. Remember what you had for lunch. That places your intellect, buddhi. But the thoughts go by like your hand in front of your face. You are not your thoughts. You're the knower of your thoughts. Well, then who am I? What's my essential nature? Or as the Zen Buddhists say, what was your face before your mother's birth? Well, that's where we're pointing. And the fruit of investigation is knowledge. We don't mean just intellectual knowledge, we mean direct experience knowledge. And that's what the material in this book is going to point us towards. Okay, I think from the standpoint of the text, we'll stop here. I actually need to do an average of 4.3 verses a week. So we're a little behind, but we can catch up. So a little bit of housekeeping stuff. The class starts promptly at 7:30. I made some exceptions this week, but don't be late. It's disturbing. I will give you the code if you're late, which I told you not to. Let yourself in quietly because we're going to start every session with 20 minutes of meditation starting next week. You need to commit for all 12 weeks. Well, what if I have an emergency? If you have an emergency, don't come. It's okay. But it's not a drop-in class, is what I'm saying. Is everyone clear on that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a commitment. It's a commitment. The tradition is this knowledge cannot be bought or sold. I don't care how much you want it or how much money you give me. I can't sell it. If the student is ready, the transmission takes place. And the custom is, out of gratitude, you can make a donation. It's called Guru Dakshina. And you'll see, I put the begging bowl behind me because I don't want to see what people put in or don't put in it. Since COVID, we've now made it available for people to use Venmo and PayPal. If you want to make a donation, it is not required. It needs to come from your generosity. It is tax deductible, by the way. If you are drinking heavily or doing drugs, my suggestion is you put that down for the 12 weeks of the course. Just try it. Really doesn't work very well. And if that's a challenge for you, maybe you're not ready yet. Can anybody think of any other housekeeping things? If we need carpooling, talk among yourselves. And also after class, there's some prasad. Prasad is a gift. So there's little peanut butter fudges, which I made for you. So we'll do a chant to end and then we'll call it a night. Om Purnamata Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Oh.